I think the thing for me that makes the manosphere especially scary is that it starts out with these young men, or not young men, who are isolated, and they're feeling like, that girls don't like them. They're feeling like maybe they can't get ahead economically. They go on the internet, and the algorithms are all too happy to put stuff in front of 16-year-old boys that's just going to fuel their isolation and their hate and their anger. And then it turns into this victimhood thing. Like, it's women's fault. It's feminism's fault because women are getting ahead. Men who are in the manosphere, they blame that on whatever is going on with them.
I agree. And I think the very echo chamber-ness of this just manifests this. And because they are not getting feedback from the outside world, it just makes it bigger and bigger and bigger. And frankly, I think it's much easier to blame someone else for the problems in your life than to take responsibility for anything you might be doing.
Welcome to Drinks with the Girls. Conversations for women over 40 around connection, change, and the power of female friendship. Living well with stories to tell. I'm Karen, and this is Lisa.
We are moms and solopreneurs stepping into our own, diving into real conversations about things that matter to women in midlife.
We're here to spill the tea on everything that affects women in their 40s and beyond. Topics like loss and grief, changing relationships, launching kids, menopause, and reinventing ourselves in midlife. We are here to tackle it all.
Connect with us through a blend of our lived experiences, our friendship, the memory of our moms, plus a collection of real stories, honest conversations, and engaging interviews that will make women over 40 feel seen and remind them that they're not alone on this journey called life. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of Drinks with the Girls. This episode today is one that has been on the docket for a while. And when Lisa first brought it up to me, I thought, okay, this is probably something we should talk about. But it's one of those ones that
You said, no way. You said,
I don't want to get.
You did. You said, I don't want to give that shit airtime.
Oh, I did? Okay, that's good. That's reasonable.
And I was like, I get it. Okay, sorry, interrupt, continue.
No, that's okay. But then after I thought about it, I thought, you know what? We might need to have a conversation about this because people might not know about it. So I'm just going to leave it there, leave you hanging, listeners, for a sec. And I'm drinking. Lisa made me get alcohol.
I was like, girl, we're doing a double tonight. We totally just broke our own rule. You know how we were all just like, oh, we're committing to the fact that we're taking care of ourselves and we're not going to record double episodes. So yeah, whatever. Next, continue.
But I was on the Southern California freeways for 2 hours. So I had to pull off and get a, what do I like to get?
Starbucks.
It's an ice, Starbucks, but I'm trying to
sorry.
think of my drink because it has like an 8-letter name. But anyway, it's like, it's a shaken, here it comes. Brown sugar shaken espresso, something like that.
Oh, damn, you weren't screwing around, were you?
No, very delicious because I was falling asleep. So I had that, and then I had my water because, we like hydration. And then Lisa's like, no, you need alcohol for these 2 episodes. So I'm like, okay, what do I have in my little fridge? So I grabbed it's called Vibe. Twisted Sips, okay?
Ooh,
and this is watermelon limeade. And I haven't had it before, but I took a sip and I was telling Lisa it tastes like spring break circa 1987. So cheers. What are you drinking?
Like, are you sure we shouldn't do another episode and channel our inner 80s? Okay, so I looked at both those episodes. It was like, A, what the fuck were we thinking? B, okay. I'm going to plan for this one. So I blended up, I think I've done this before. So when Kate LaPlante was on this episode, she gave us a recipe for pear martinis. I have upgraded it, and it is now a frozen pear martini made with my own homemade canned pears and syrup. And I just throw all that shit in the blender with all the stuff, and I bring it out. So I'm ready. Buckle up.
Cheers. Sounds delicious.
All right, let's get to it. So Karen said, we were like, do we, don't we do? And I was just like, oh, I don't know. I think it's important that we talk about it. But we just kind of were like, we need to find the right angle because we didn't want to just like give airtime to some of these people because it's pretty intense, y'all. So I was minding my own business and I was reading my Smith Alumni Quarterly, and what do you know? There was an article on the Manosphere. I wish I could put it in the show notes, but I can't, publishing rights, all the things. But it really reframed it in a way that I mentioned to Karen. I was like, I think we can talk about this. And she's like, ooh, I like it. So it helped us get comfortable with the angle that we're going to take on it. And I feel much more prepared and much more like, okay, we're delivering this as a service to y'all. So I'm ready to go.
So we're talking today about, and actually this article was fascinating, about why feminism is good for the manosphere. And Lisa alludes to this a lot when we talk about the patriarchy. Lisa says the patriarchy is not good for men either. So I think this is kind of, expanding on that whole notion a bit. Would you say?
Yes, I agree. And that is kind of the main point of the article. Like when people hear about these manosphere influencers, I mean, y'all, if you haven't dipped your toe in this sewage, whoo, it's like men that have like a woman on the side that has their babies so they can like date others. And then there's one influencer and like she doesn't, and it's, people think trad wife. I'm about to offend all the trad wives out there, but I don't know that you're our audience, to be completely honest. Plus, so. I can and preserve. So in a way, it's like the toxic version of what even like the most conservative trad wife kind of situation would be. There is zero respect for women in that paradigm. It is, the man is the king, the man does whatever he wants, and women are just literally there to serve, to the point where there's some other influencers that have gotten like rage baity with women and really like blaming women for their inability to get married or get a date. I have so many things I want to say about that because typically we'll just take a look at who they are. But so just kind of set the expectation, right? We're diving into the toxic soup of that.
Yeah, and how it kind of came about. And, we'll talk about gender roles, we'll talk about feminism, we'll talk about all the things. And like we like to tell you guys, it's not about hating men, bashing men. It's not about, them versus us, right? It is, what is the manosphere? How is it showing up in the world? Where does feminism fit in? And, how really feminism could help the manosphere and men. Something I didn't realize about this topic is, and when I read the article, it kind of all started with the gaming community.
Yes.
Which I thought was very interesting and makes kind of sense. Because when you think of who the gamers are, and, this is very stereotypical. I apologize. I mean, my son-in-law is a gamer. No, my stepson is a gamer. And I wouldn't necessarily put him in this category, but when you think of young men who are gamers, you think of, kind of nerdy, kind of, not a lot of friends, maybe. I don't know. That's very stereotypical and wrong. So I'm not even going to go there.
So quick definition, right? And I just got this off the interwebs. It is, the Manosphere is a loose, decentralized network of websites, forums, and social media spaces. So it's an echo chamber, first and foremost. While it claims to offer guidance on men's issues, dating, and fitness, the space is widely characterized by toxic masculinity, deep misogyny, and strong opposition to feminism. And the article gives a couple examples. So I'll just read this quick section here to kind of set the bar. It says the Manosphere's most notorious member may be British American influencer Andrew Tate, who a lot of people have heard of, who've said that wives belong, air quotes, to their husbands, and has written that women should bear.
This is ridiculous.
Wait, but it's misspelled. This is my favorite part. It's misspelled. It's
perfect.
Like, oh, I love it.
Perfect.
So bear some responsibility for being raped. He and his brother Tristan Tate will stand trial in Britain on charges of sexual violence, including rape, assault, and human trafficking. Romania, Y'all, like Romania, that's pretty hardcore, is investigating whether the Tate brothers trafficked more than 30 women. The Tates are also under investigation in the United States. Some other ones you might be familiar with: white supremacist and anti-Semite Nick Fuentes, Myron Gaines, who hosts some podcasts, Joe Rogan. It's not just the nation's most popular podcast. He can be affiliated in a lot of ways with that movement. Theo Vaughn, Jordan Peterson. Anyways, all right, that's all the airtime we're going to give those people.
And by the way, didn't our president give pardon or something to the Tate brothers? Or no,
I
he
do not
did.
know.
What did he do? Yeah,
Okay.
Controversial influencers Andrew and Tristan Tate have developed strategic alliances with the Trump family and inner circle, leading to their release from travel bans in Romania and relocation to Florida.
Awesome.
While President Trump officially denies involvement, extensive investigative reports suggest his administration intervened on their behalf. So, just if we're wondering if the Manosphere is at all tied to anything in our country that has to do with making decisions or...
So there's that. Anywho. Okay.
Anywho.
All right. So let's start here. What assumptions do you think people make about feminism, my friend?
Oh my gosh. I think
I know. It's like, do you have an hour?
I think that people assume that we're all man haters. I think that people assume that we only care about what's good for women and not what's good for men. That we, are totally disconnected from any traditional gender roles, which is not true based on your comment earlier about canning and crocheting and all of it, right? So I just think that, people think that there's this like delineation between us versus them.
Yep.
That's just what comes to mind. What about you?
I also agree, ditto. I also think there's an assumption that all feminists are angry and pissed off.
Yes.
I mean, the Venn diagram that comes to mind is feminism. Women are really angry and pissed off. Women. I think there is some intersection with women are angry and pissed off, part of feminism, but I honestly think that it's much more about not even equality, but fairness. And, y'all, we still make, 60 some cents to the dollar for men. There's some just straight up facts, straight up scientific facts. We're going to do an episode on, medical gaslighting of women. That's a whole other thing, like bikini medicine and all that. All the research that's been done that says, that treats it like, basically it's that bikini medicine thing. So essentially a woman is the same thing as a man, just take away the bikini parts, which is like the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. So I think that it's much more about embracing the differences, because there are differences between men and women, but having some freaking common sense about when there is a difference and when there isn't, right? As in, we have breasts and a vagina. That is just a biological fact. However, we should make the same amount of money as a man. There you go.
Yeah.
Hey there, I'm Lisa Corricello-McDowell, your Midlife Pacific Northwest princess, here to guide you in the art of next leveling your life. I'm passionate about women's health and wellness in midlife, especially for moms parenting kids with unique needs like I do. I truly believe we can learn, grow, advocate, and care for the planet while taking care of ourselves and our families. And I'd love to help you do the same. And I'm beyond excited to tell you about my membership for maxed out mamas just like me, the Empowered Parent Collective. It's a space for parents to confidently advocate for their kids, build inclusive communities, educate themselves, and find balance and support along the way. To find out more about the Empowered Parent Collective, my classes, wellness offerings, parenting tips, advocacy resources, and exclusive Drinks with the Girls goodies, head to nextlevellifewithlisa.com. Let's survive and thrive in the messy middle together.
I think the thing for me that makes the Manosphere especially scary is that it starts out with isolation, right? It starts out with these young men or not young men who are isolated, and maybe they are the quote unquote gamers, right? And so, or the kids that are, in their room by themselves on YouTube for hours and hours, and they're feeling like, that girls don't like them. They're feeling like, maybe they can't get ahead economically or something. So that is giving them a hit to their masculinity, right? And then they go on the internet and they are, how our algorithms are, like the algorithms are all too happy to put stuff in front of 16-year-old boys that's just going to fuel their isolation and their hate and their anger.
Yep.
And then it turns into this victimhood thing. Like it's women's fault. It's feminism's fault because women are getting ahead. Women are trying to close the pay gap, right? Women are becoming more you see more women in leadership roles, all the things, right? And so I think men who are in the manosphere, they blame that on whatever is going on with them.
It's kind of the whole argument of it's not pie, right? It's not, if I take a slice, there's one less slice for you. Yeah. Rights, all that stuff, right? People think of it as something that you have to divvy up. I mean, honestly, a lot of this smacks of just the roots of anti-Semitism in terms of this stereotype that all Jews were wealthy, and so they were taking the wealth away from Christians, which is bizarre, right? I mean, Shakespeare, Merchant of Venice, like the main character Shylock is like a pretty good example of like anti-Semitism, right? And a lot of times when theater companies approach a production of the Merchant of Venice, they have to, well, all the time, really, they have to grapple with that idea of like, how are we going to portray this? Like, what does this mean? How do we bring humanity to this character so he's not just a character? But I digress. So I agree. I think the very echo chamber-ness of this that's what an echo chamber is. It just manifests this. And because they are not getting feedback from the outside world, they're not going out to the workforce, they're not meeting people, they're not talking to people that aren't like online. It just makes it bigger and bigger and bigger. And frankly, just telling the truth, I think it's much easier to blame someone else for the problems in your life than to take responsibility for anything you might be doing. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just the bottom line, in my opinion.
No, for sure. And especially when you're exposed to these influencers, these manosphere influencers that are telling you, oh, this is the problem. Women have too much power, and that's why you don't have whatever it is you need or whatever you're lacking.
Yep.
And it's like, it's such a weird hierarchy, because I think of the Tate brothers, and I think of Nick Fuentes, and the only thing I know about him is that phrase, your body, my choice. Like that and I think it was when when Roe v. Wade was,
was it Me Too?
Nope. I think it was after Me Too. But I don't want to speak to it because I don't know the details. It was I feel like it was like 2 years ago, but that was like his thing. Oh yeah, your body, my choice. And that made shivers run down my freaking spine. Right. So we have those type of influencers that are just give you the ick all day long, like dangerous. Then you have the Joe Rogans. Right? The hyper masculinity, the like, tough guys and all that nonsense. And so I think, I know there are men in my life who, just kind of worship Joe Rogan. And it's kind of disturbing.
Yeah. And that's the thing, the platforms, I think. Like, we live in the day and age when the internet is a loud megaphone. And I would argue louder than television. I mean, certainly network television. Totally. Certainly print. And I mean, that has been completely upended from even 10, 15 years ago. So I think that that's hard because these ideas can spread like wildfire. Like, it used to be, someone, back in the day, someone would print an article that was controversial and like, it would travel through America and covered wagons and newspapers and da-da-da-da, and like, you know, maybe the covered wagon full of newspapers overturned and the West Coast didn't get, I don't know, I'm just like making this shit up. But basically, right, the point I'm attempting sadly to make is that the distribution of information was very slow and very select, right? Now it's like you hit the keyboard, boom, done. Like I think about, so we're recording this on the eve of the 4th of July weekend, and Travis and Taylor got married, right? And apparently they did it in secret. And now they're throwing this big party, which we won't get into. But, right, I can see why they wanted to do that. I can see why they wanted to take the circus out of this whole thing and just do it in a way that was just for them. So congratulations, number one, because that's a feat. Like I honestly don't know how they pulled that off with, you know, the way that every move they have is examined. But I think that speaks to it, right? Just any little anything just explodes and takes on a new life. So I think it's really hard to control information, period, now. Facts are debatable. Everything's fake news, or it isn't, depending on what your political view is. So I think it's particularly incendiary in an environment like this when this is kind of the bedrock of how we're living.
Did you see that movie, Adolescence?
I didn't, and I'm afraid to. I'll just be honest.
No, it's extremely disturbing, but it really gives you a bird's eye view into how young men, like boys, I think the main character was like 13, 14, yes. Right? And how the incels,
that's
incel?
The word I was looking for. Okay, give me a definition of that, because I remember saying something about that and you being like, oh my God. So help us with the definition.
Okay, so an incel, it's short for involuntarily celibate. Okay, so an incel is a member of an online subculture of individuals who define themselves by their inability to find a romantic or sexual partner despite desiring one. So it's basically they can't find a partner, it's usually men who cannot find a woman to be in a relationship with or have sex with or whatever, right? And so they blame it on the women. This is like kind of what we were talking about a little bit ago. Yep. It's like blaming the women and blaming feminism for their problem, which is nobody wants to be with them because they have creepy values and
they live in their grandmother's basement.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Yes. So this movie, Adolescence, and I can't remember where I saw it a couple of years. I saw it maybe a year ago. Can't remember where I streamed it. But if you are curious about incels, the Manosphere, how this is really impacting our society, how it's impacting our young men, check it out. Adolescence. It's very well done. It's disturbing, but it's happening. We cannot put our heads in the sand about what is really going on, because it's dangerous. These young men are going to grow up to be big men. Yeah. And then they're going to be more Andrew Tates and more Nick Fuenteses. And, I'll just stop there. But I also want to okay, can we have empathy for what is happening with men in the world, not even just in our country, without excusing behavior, right? So I think it's a matter of, this is bad for everybody. It's bad for the men too. Yep. But we're not going to excuse the bad behavior. The Nick Fuentes, they don't get it. Do you know Spotify banned him? They banned his podcast because of his speech. Right?
Damn, that's
for you to get right.
It's a high bar. Is it a low bar? Yeah. High bar? The bar, whatever.
The bar. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I think we can admit the fact, because there's the male, you hear all about it right now, the male loneliness epidemic. Okay. Sure. Are men lonely? Are there men that are lonely right now? Absolutely.
There are women that are lonely too. I'm sorry. Like, men don't have a freaking corner on that market. I'm finish what you're saying. I need to rage for a second, but I want to
Well,
finish what
no,
you're saying.
I love your rage, but what I'm thinking is, no, women want to be, the women are happy to be alone. The women are leave me
Well,
the
that's
F
true.
alone.
Yeah, that's honestly, that's true. Yeah, I love me some alone time. Yeah, I definitely
Right.
think women can handle being alone better than men. And that's a generalization, right? Like, I don't know if y'all are Shrinking fans, but they talk about that and the loneliness and kind of this one character and what happens. But I think what was fueling my rage was, I think honestly the manosphere is kind of this right rudder for the fact that we all live in a very, despite being connected, disconnected world. I think the pandemic has really made it difficult for people to understand how to communicate belly to belly. We all talk about how, again, Saint T Swift, say it to my face, right? Say it in a tweet. And I also think that the economy has a huge part to play in all this, because this generation is really struggling. I mean, not even this generation, just in general, right? Like, I mean, if you get laid off now at our age, it's rough. It is really, really rough. And I mean, this is a whole other topic, but from what I can tell, a lot of the new generation is just dipping out of corporate America because, for a lot of reasons, but one of which is they just don't want to deal with the economics of like up and down. So my point in all this is that I think that there's bigger picture issues that are involved that need to be solved. And one of the runoff from this, let's just call it the toxic runoff from all this, is the
Love it.
manosphere.
Yeah. Yeah. And to the economic part, did you know, you probably did, I didn't realize, I mean, I knew it was something like this, but I didn't realize the numbers. 10% of Americans control 67% of the wealth.
It's disgusting.
It's disgusting. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Not that that's the only problem, and that's why the manosphere is what it is. But I think that, yeah, if economics, if young men felt like they were successful at work or making money, I mean, that's part of, and this talks to, is it the gender roles, or this talks to how men are raised? Men are raised to be the providers. That what equals success? Money, making money. And if you're a 22-year-old kid and you are not making money and you're feeling lonely and you get a hold of some of this hate stuff going on that says, yeah, women are the problem,
Yeah.
then it's just all going to fester.
And then it just echoes in the chamber.
My name is Karen Shatafian, and I am a shameless coffee addict and empowerment coach for women, and my love language is authenticity. My mission is helping women unapologetically design a life they're in love with. Because what the hell are we waiting for? My website, KarenShatafian.com, has all my coaching packages and free offers, like my Midlife Reclamation Guide. In it, you'll find tools to help you decide how to create the most inspired and empowered version of yourself and your life. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram talking about ways women can show up for themselves after decades of showing up for everyone else. Join me as we throw off the shackles and live our best freaking lives. See the show notes for all the details. Cheers.
Yeah. No, like I said, I think there's some majorly big, sound like a valley girl, huge issues that this is just, like I said, part of the toxic runoff of. So, I mean, really, it's the big issues that need to be solved, in my opinion, and Manosphere would go away. But, I mean, obviously that's a huge task.
Yeah. I liked what that article said at the end, because it's like, okay, great. There's this toxicity running rampant, right, in society. And okay, what do we do about it? Because I don't know about you, but and maybe the reason you haven't watched Adolescence, because you're like, holy shit, I know this is a really big, gross deal.
Yep.
And I really, and so the article was saying, basically, we can't combat the manosphere with hate. Like, we can't rally the feminists and be like, you guys, blah, blah, blah. We just can't. There's no way that we would win that war. And so it's like, what we have to do is we have to start looking at gender roles, looking at the way we're raised, looking at how boys aren't allowed to cry.
Yep.
Right? What are they? They're called wimpy if they cry. They're not allowed to have those kinds of emotions. They can have anger, but that's pretty much it.
Yep.
Right? So what the article is saying is we need to start having conversations with the young men, the boys and the young men in our lives and that's how we will dismantle this. Right? But not by meeting the manosphere face to face with.
Yeah, that's not going to happen because
fighting fire with fire.
Yeah, you have to have solutions for what is, I mean, to continue the fire metaphor, like the fuel. And we've talked about this before on the podcast. I think as moms, not even moms, just in general, right? We have a responsibility to educate young boys and young male children about what true masculinity is. And I'm not talking about gender fluidity. I'm not talking about trans issues. I'm not talking about the biological questions about male. Like, I'm not diving into that. I'm talking about the cultural kind of characteristics, right? Which, frankly, can be just as toxic for women as they are for men. And that's part of the problem, right? I mean, we talk about the whole trad wife thing and all of that. Incidentally, by the way, I just found out that what the heck's her name? Princess Diaries.
Hathaway?
Yes, thank you. Good Christ. Just bought the rights to this story about a trad wife influencer who like somehow goes back in time to the 1800s and has to really live the life of like basically a pioneer woman. I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. At any rate, I digress. So the idea that these rigid gender roles hurt everybody. So what are we doing to help our sons feel it's okay to cry? What are we doing to educate our sons about how you treat women? What are we doing to educate our daughters about what is okay and what is not okay? I feel like a lot of it starts there. Like that
Yes.
is a responsibility that all of society has.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, I'm like, well, why do I have such an adverse reaction? Like when we talk about, why did I say no way, Jose, when you first brought this up, And it's because the men in my life this is shockingly uncomfortable and scary.
Mm-hmm.
The hate that these men have for women and that they have a platform where they can share their hate because it's like women, their safety is in jeopardy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so the men in my life, it's like, wait, what? There's men out there who think this, who believe this. And maybe I was just naive with an ostrich head in the sand. But, I think about it like even my ex-husband, he's a crier, God love him. Like he would cry more than me. And so my kids grew up seeing a man cry. He would clean, they saw him do dishes. They saw if one of us cooked, the other cleaned. Right. So, were traditional gender roles still in place in my home? Absolutely. Because it's just hard to break free from some of that.
Yeah.
But my kids did see a man and a woman with both doing each other's roles, if that makes sense.
The traditional each other's roles.
And by the way, sorry, we respected each other.
Yes. That's the big piece.
Even though he was the provider and I was an OG trad wife, there was not this whole huge in front of the kids power differential. Yeah. Like I'm in charge and you're less than me and, you should be cleaning and cooking and all that. No, it's just we made it work for our family. That's just how it worked for our family.
Yep. And I mean, my kids are the nth degree of that, right? Because I am now the breadwinner. My husband does not work because of his disability. So they see that and they see him cooking and cleaning and doing other things. So we've flipped it on its end because of the situation that we're in. So yeah, I am happy that my kids have grown up, like you said, seeing, cultural stereotypes.
How do you think feminism can benefit everybody?
Well, I think that what feminism does is it talks about the idea that no person is less than. Not a woman, not a man, not a race, not a person in poverty, not a person who's wealthy. Like, we don't get to have this hierarchy of one particular subgroup is better than the other. And I actually think that that's the message of feminism once you peel back all of this. But unfortunately, the raging meme of, the white woman like yelling at that, African American birder is kind of like what everybody sees, right? It doesn't get distilled into kind of that clarity, but that's really what it's about at its purest sense. The fact that it's called feminism, I think, just happens to be because it was centered around women. But I do think it's very polarizing. People hear that word and they automatically have like this image of women burying their bras and like Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan and just this one-sided, the Equal Rights Amendment, like all these things. And they don't like a lot of things. People like their black and white. We don't like our shades of gray. We want to look at something and instantly know what it is. We want our brain to recognize, is that black or is that white? Okay, move on. Make it easy for me. I don't want to have to think. I don't want any gray areas.
Yeah, what's coming to my mind right now is, so back to what we were talking about, like, okay, what do we do about this? Well, it's having conversations and relationships with young men. It's helping kind of bust some of these, rules that we've all grown up with and all been raised with, and they're like embedded in who we all are.
Yep.
And then when you were talking, I mean, there's just this intersectionality, I think, too, with maybe the manosphere and racism and
agreed.
Hatred toward the LGBTQ community, right? And so I just and that stuff, those values are carried on from generation to generation. And so I don't know, I just had this sense of like, almost like defeat, because like in order to change those things, I mean,
that's generational trauma. And again, I go back to that simple metaphor of pie. Everybody thinks that the world is pie. Now, I'd venture to say the pie is an apt metaphor when it comes to 10% of the people in the U.S. owning the majority of the wealth. That's definitely pie. But we're not talking about that, right? But this idea that if I have more rights, that there's less for everybody. So there's this definite feeling, I feel like, in the manosphere of, I'm going to get mine, because if I don't, somebody's going to take it from me. And so I get mine by subjugating others and putting them in their place. There's definitely this idea of masculinity being dominant, being, what I want to say, the dominant culture, the most important thing, the having the roles that matter, I would say. How do we bring this back to midlife, right? We talk to midlife women on this podcast. So why should midlife women care or be educated about the manosphere? What do you think?
Well, I feel like everybody needs to be educated about the manosphere, because I think we can see glimpses of it all around, and it's getting, at least in the United States, it's getting more pervasive. Yep. The longer we are not holding people accountable for the way they talk to women, talk about women, I think everybody needs to be educated about this, because it's going to affect all of us, and especially if you're a parent, especially if you're raising, it's going to affect your girls, it's going to affect your boys. Yep. So yeah, I think it's extremely important. And I think also we as midlife women are at this stage in our life, like we are the most powerful. Because we don't give a fuck anymore. Mm-hmm. We're not afraid to like hurt people's feelings or ruffle people's feathers. And so we'll say the hard things. Right. And so I think we're the perfect demographic to really, make some noise about this.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. And I especially like the idea of that we're raising the next generation to look at things differently and be really be educated about all this and not just kind of take it at face value. Okay, something popped into my mind, and you don't have to answer it, but I'm just curious because Peyton's dipped her toe in, well, not even her toe, is in the dating world now. And I'm wondering if this kind of stuff comes up. I mean, obviously she's going to have no patience for it, but I'm just say a little if you're comfortable about that. Has she kind of found that to be a thing, or?
She vets them really pretty, like
Yeah.
she has lots of conversations with them before she will actually go out with them. I don't even know if they call it a date, whatever they call it. And, she looks at their political affiliations. She asks them, and if she sees red flags, she's not about it. She's not. I know she's had... She had one guy that she was dating, and no, not dating. Sorry, whatever they were doing.
Oh, they don't call it dating anymore? Is that a thing?
I don't even know. I have no idea.
God, I feel old.
Well, I feel like dating is like when you're exclusive. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
She was chatting with and spending time
seeing
with
someone, spending time with them. Yes.
Young man, right? And from the get-go, she's like, I do not want a relationship. I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm looking for somebody to hang out with, have fun with, do things with. On the same page. That sounds great. Well, of course, as time goes on, they spend more time together. He, I think, is kind of getting a different idea. And again, then she brings it up, when he kind of is like, oh, poor me. What do you mean you don't want to have a relationship?
Yeah.
And so it's just, and not that he is in any way related to an incel or the Manosphere or anything, but it's just funny to me because, men, like she was very clear in her communication throughout. And then when, it kind of turned for him and something, that came about that he didn't like, he kind of turned into the victim a little bit, And so I just think, I don't think she's really, at least not that she's shared with me, that if she's run in with anybody overly toxic or extremely.
Yeah. I would think she'd be able to weed that out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
At any rate. Notes from the field for any of us that have been out of the field for a while. I just rely on her to be my ear to the ground because I'm just so freaking clueless about it.
Yeah. So that's where we're going to leave the public conversation for today because we are headed to After Hours. This is where we're going to talk about the things that women don't say out loud, how feminism benefits men, and what healthy masculinity looks like. So this is the part that's exclusively for our Patreon members. If you'd like to join us, the link's in the show notes. And if not, we are glad you're here anyway.
Thanks, peeps. We'll see you next week on Drinks with the Girls.
Well, we've reached the part of the conversation where we probably should stop talking.
But we never do.
We really don't. But hold up. You're probably wondering where the rest of this episode went.
I got you. This is why we have one brain. We've launched Drinks with the Girls 2.0, and it's over on Patreon. We've realized some of our best conversations happen after we've officially wrapped things up.
This is where you'll get the end of the conversation plus early access to all the episodes so you never miss Last Call.
You'll get the stories we probably shouldn't share, the things we weren't planning to say, the random rabbit holes that somehow become the best part of the conversation.
Basically, all the stuff that happens when the microphones are still on, but we're no longer behaving ourselves, like that ever happens.
And best of all, you'll get in on the ground floor of the rocket ship that is Drinks with the Girls 2.0.
We've been teasing this for a while now, and it's finally here. You'll get to own your very own slice of Drinks with the Girls 2.0 and help us launch this sucker into the stratosphere.
So if you'd like to pull up a seat for one more round or join us for a coffee date, come join us on Patreon. The link is in the show notes.
We'd love to have you, and we're saving you a seat.
Wait, why are you still here? Head over to Patreon and join us now.